Welcome to the weigh-in. I'm Sean Zerillo, joined today by former professional MMA fighter Billy Ward to get you set with our favorite props and our top underdogs for UFC 281 going down on Saturday night at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Let's talk our favorite underdogs. I'm going with the local kid, Matt Frivola, the Huntington native. The steamroller plus 130 on the money line is his peak price right now. Projected him closer to plus 120. There's been a lot of movement on this fight. Frivola initially opened as a favorite. Now he's moved to an underdog price. I actually do understand Azatar being the pre-fight favorite. Very often he does win his fights in round one and then sort of falls off in terms of his cardio and pace as the fights extend. But I think most of his win condition is tied to round one. And Frivola tends to brawl early in his fights before eventually settling in and starting to wrestle. So his chin been knocked out in a UFC record 7 seconds before by Terrence McKinney. On top of the fact that Azatar is an early finisher, I don't think is a great combination for him. But if you are willing to lay the pre-fight price and take Frivola at plus money, I don't think he's a bad value bet if he can survive that early onslaught. If he decides to wrestle proactively from the opening bell, I think he can look like a favorite. I think he's more skilled in most spots in this matchup. The main concern is that durability, but he hits hard, maintains an excellent pace, maintains an excellent pace, incredibly exciting fighter to watch because he is the steamroller. He just doesn't stop until he puts you out, or he will maintain that pace for 15 minutes and win a decision. But as I said, if he wrestles proactively from the outset, I think he's going to look like a favorite because I'm not sure Zatar has what it takes to stop those takedowns from coming. Still getting plus money on his side, even if he does decide to brawl, would not be laying the juice on him here as he was when the fight initially opened, but happy to get that plus money, knowing there's a chance going in that he immediately gets flatlined. But outside of a round one KO, I think Zatar is mostly drawing dead. Billy, where are you going with your favorite underdog on Saturday night?
Yeah, real quick on yours. I've been really interested in this line the whole time. We saw last week heavy line movement on a guy who it turned out was probably injured coming in. So I'm a little bit nervous about that. I bet the Azatar side when it was closer to even money. I think he would have probably opened as a favorite had he not been coming off of a 2-year layoff, which is another factor. So I think you're on the right side of it with where the line's at now. But man, there's a lot at play on this one, and I'm staying away from it just because I'm too nervous about all those other factors.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, my favorite underdog is Ryan Spann. He's fighting Dominic Reyes. And, if this was peak Dominic Reyes, I think Dominic Reyes just steamrolls Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann's big, athletic guy, kind of wild, comes out here and does stuff. We've seen Reyes lose 3 fights in a row. The last 2 were knockouts. Yes, they were all against current or former champions, but that doesn't mean he's gotten any better. And he's kind of looked progressively worse in each of those. So even though these guys aren't that far apart in age, Spann seems to be on the come up a little bit, where I think Reyes has never really been the same since that fight with John Jones. And when you can get him at, plus 180 or so, somewhere in that neighborhood, I think that's a really good price on him. I also like his inside the distance at plus 250 and even his round one at plus 600 because Ryan Spann doesn't really win much outside of round one. So you could even take that round one and then look to bet Reyes live after that. But I think it's a good line on the money line when you're getting those plus 180s or so. If it goes any lower, I would take the inside the distance or round one and then look to hedge live.
Yeah, I'm interested in the under 1.5 rounds in that matchup. A lot of Spann's fights tend to end inside that first round and a half. My concern with betting any sort of under and why I prefer your Spann inside the distance plays maybe who knows how Dominic Reyes reacts after coming back from a layoff, multiple mad knockouts. Maybe he's just a very conservative fighter and unwilling to go forward and press the issue. But that does lead us into a discussion about our favorite props, our favorite totals for Saturday's card. I have a total that I'm eyeing for a goes to decision bet that I'm eyeing. But Billy, I'm curious to hear from you first.
Yeah, I don't want to do this. I'm going to make everyone sad, but it's Chris Gutierrez inside the distance. I
Oh
mean,
no.
Frankie Edgar, I know, like, I don't want this to be my favorite prop, but it is. Frankie Edgar's 41 years old. His 1-4 in his last five. Three of those were knockouts, 2 of them in the first round. Your chin doesn't get better in your 40s after being knocked out a couple times. Gutierrez is a really powerful striker. His knockdown rate's almost double the divisional average. We got to do it, guys. We got to do it. You could play the knockout if you wanted a little bit better juice. I like the inside the distance just because of a club and sub, something like that. Even stylistically, Frankie's got real good footwork and avoided, or when he was younger at least, avoided damage well. Gutierrez might have the best leg kicks, at least in the division, if not in the UFC right now, which puts an end to that footwork real fast. So I'm not happy about it. I would be thrilled to lose this bet, but it's got to be Chris Gutierrez inside the distance.
Okay, so I hope we don't get middled here and get a Gutierrez by decision, right? I should say a Egger inside the distance, because I'm on this fight to go to a decision. We are on opposite sides of this matchup. Minus 112 at FanDuel. See a lot of the markets sitting around minus 135, minus 140. So if you can get that minus 112, I would play it because I think that price is off from the rest of the market. But if you're getting that market average price around minus 135, I would probably lay off. I projected this line closer to minus 120 to reach a decision. It is a lower weight class, which tends to reach a decision more. Obviously, you mentioned Frankie Edgar being 41 years old, also been finished in 4 of his past 5 losses. I do like the fact that he took a year off after his last loss. By the way, he was beating Chito Vera until he was knocked out. So still has some amount of skill. Just the durability is the concern, particularly at 41 years old. But Frankie Edgar, former 155-pound champion, the way he fights, he is not a big finisher himself. He's going to look to consolidate position, get on top, and gain top control for extended stretches. So that can kill some time off the clock. As you mentioned, Gutierrez is going to be hunting for those leg kicks, looking to slow Edgar down. Not as much of a headhunter. I know he did score, I believe, a spinning elbow or back fist in his last victory, which ended up being a knockout, but that is typically not how he fights. Tends to chop down his opponents with the leg kicks, and as their movement slows, eventually he closes in and tries to finish upstairs. So the larger part of this finish equity, I would say, would be in the latter half of the fight, as Gutierrez potentially slows down Edgar with those leg kicks, gets him to stand in front of him. Maybe he can eventually put him away, but I generally see this playing out as a longer fight, getting a bit extended, maybe getting to that second, third round before Gutierrez gets the finish. I just see that finish coming later. So maybe from your perspective, from Gutierrez round 2, round 3 props, if he chops down the leg first and then puts him away late, unless Edgar just can't take a punch anymore overall. But the fight to go to decision, minus 112, I think it is just slightly de-juiced relative to where Edgar's fights normally are, considering he is 41 and coming off of a bunch of finishes recently. But we are on opposite sides of our favorite prop. That is okay, because we gave you some favorite underdogs that we like as well. And make sure to check out the Action Network's YouTube channel, because we've also got our favorite bets for the card, in addition to our bets for the main and co-main events on Saturday night. That'll do it for us for now. Thank you for tuning into the weigh-in.